Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever, wherever you are watching this. My name is Marcus Octavius, and you are in the Foxhole. As many of you may have seen on my Facebook page, I put up a brand new picture called Support Small Business. I wanted to thank a local theater here in my area, excuse me, the Warehouse Theater, for putting that up. It's a firm thing I believe in. Obviously, it's something they believe in. So I just wanted to give a special shout out to them. It wasn't anything that I per se created, but it was something that I found, and I felt it was worth posting. Excuse me. As usual, I have a very dry voice, so you have to bear with me. I'm still working on the new intro. As a matter of fact, come tomorrow, on the 19th, I'm going to be working on a new intro. And it's going to be something pretty unique, something to advance the channel more and to give the playlist a little bit more punch. So keep your eyes out for that. As usual, it's on Twitter, Facebook, and via my email. New intro coming in soon. So let's get to the list. Moby, Orut, and One, Paradox, Obscure, and Feline all jump back into the Foxhole. And this particular week, it seems like every time I do a playlist, there seems to be a couple of, how shall we say, special acts that sort of mirror one another. As many of you remember, P-Lion, not Feline, was part of the whole Italian disco type movement, which was sort of Italy's answer to the new wave of the 1980s. And he was also on the list with Giorgio Moroder, who was, as I have firmly confirmed it, a excuse me, a senior officer in influence. And this list is no different. The first artist I'd like to cite is somebody who's not even an artist at all by definition. He only released 2 albums, both of them in the late 80s, and that's John Astley. He mostly makes his bread, if you will, as a producer, producing such acts as Eric Clapton, Peter Gabriel, Judas Priest, and Tori Amos, and that's just naming a few. He's mostly well known for his quote-unquote one-hit wonder, which is Jane's Getting Serious, which is what's featured on the Foxhole this week. But the song actually lived on a little after him. It was featured in a Heinz commercial that had a particular quote-unquote friend in this particular one. I believe it was a pre-Friends Matt LeBlanc. It was one of his first acting gigs, was in this Heinz commercial. But like I said, 2 albums to his credit, both of them released in the 80s, 87 and 88. But there you go, John Astley, Jane's Getting Serious. Nissan Block is a rapper from the Seattle area, and I found him to be very interesting. He's actually an African-American, but he's an African-American Jewish person, sort of following in the footsteps of such people as Sammy Davis Jr., who many people may remember from the Rat Pack days of the late 50s and 60s. Sammy Davis Jr. was, in fact, devout Jewish, Orthodox Jewish, as I believe. Nissan Black has released 5 albums, 1 EP, 2 mixtapes, and 1 compilation. He's a firmly confirmed rapper. He does mostly conscious hip-hop, social hip-hop, commenting on the state of things and things of that nature, which is why he got added to the list. I wasn't, looking for a gangster. I was looking for somebody to rap about real stuff and not just the whole, if you'll pardon my French, the whole bitches and hoes mentality. Nissan Black. He actually comes from a very musical family. His mom and dad were not only gang members in Seattle, but were also rappers, and his grandparents played for, among other people, Ray Charles and Quincy Jones. So I found him via my usual searches. I liked what he was doing, so I decided to go ahead and add him. Nissan Black. Also keeping up in these sort of unorthodox, modern, different than the modern hip-hop we get today. You got K-Flay, who's from Willamette, Illinois, which is 14 miles north of Chicago. Rapper, singer, songwriter, female. 3 albums, 4 compilations, and 4 EPs. Particularly interesting, she was featured on a number of soundtracks and things of that nature. She's on the soundtrack for FIFA 16, which is the soccer game that EA Sports puts out. Something more a little more close to the home. She's also featured on the soundtrack for NBA 2K17. And for those of you who are comic book fans, one of her songs is actually featured on the Birds of Prey soundtrack. which some may confuse for a Harley Quinn sequel. So take that for what you will. And my senior officer this week is somebody that has sort of been in the music industry for a very long time. Somebody kind of similar on the veins of Leonard Cohen, who is not a strictly what you would call a mainstream artist, but somebody that has an influence on so many others. And that's Gil Scott-Heron, a Chicago-based musician and author, but he mostly made his bones as a spoken word performer for really decades, since the late 60s on up to the early 2000s. He's considered by many news outlets to be not only the godfather of rap, but also called the Black Bob Dylan. 17 studio albums, 9 of them live, 12 compilations. He died in May 27th, 2011 due to HIV. He did not have a will, and what that results, of course, is a very ugly legal battle over his estate. Apparently there were property and, of course, valuables of some sort. He has influenced everybody from Kanye to Kendrick Lamar, and even for those of you who are into the neo-soul movement, he's had an influence on Jill Scott. Just one of those individuals, much like Leonard Cohen, you have to know him when you hear him, and he was still going strong before he caught HIV. And that's sort of it. This is a very quick intro video. I'm slightly in a rush this week, ladies and gentlemen. But as always, please like, share, subscribe. All the links are down below: Facebook, Twitter, and my email. As usual, please stay safe out there. If you are protesting, even if you're not protesting, please wear your mask. Please maintain 6 feet. Please try to keep safe and keep clean. And we will see you next time. Marcus Octavius, enjoy the list.